Mallory, this is Dr. Reddick. Thanks for allowing me to do your 2D and 3D video analysis. I'm going to be talking about 12 hitting inhibitors today. These inhibitors can impact your power, contact, as well as efficiency in your swing. First thing I'm going to go through is to look and see if you have a sway. And so on the negative move, which is pressure going back, or weight shift, give it a little bit of leeway here. And so we look to see just on that negative move, and so I may have started the camera a little late, but we don't want that knee to cross that line. And so, but no evidence of sway there. Other thing we look for is we want you in an attacking position. And so what we'll do is at that negative move, from your eye to your waist, we want a forward lean. When you get to toe touch position, still want you in that forward lean. You can see it lost a little bit there. And then at heel plant, we definitely want you leaning backwards, all right? So if I go to the toe touch position, which I'm calling here, you can see your eye to the waist is leaning back. So at this point, we either want you still leaning forward or fairly straight up, but not fully leaning back. We still want you in an attacking position until you get that heel plant. And so we refer to this as loss of posture. And all this can affect swing efficiency as well as weight shift. Other thing we look for is dead hands. And so as we're evaluating you, we take you up to the negative move, and we measure kind of mid-distance to your hand, to your nose there. Oops. And then we take it to the toe touch position. And then what we do is we measure, again, mid-hands. Come on. Mid-hands to your nose. And I would say maybe you have a little bit more distance, even though you do have the same number of lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to say you have dead hands. So, and that's important because some batters will start with the bat a little bit closer to the neck. When they make that negative move, or excuse me, when they make that toe touch, that positive move and doing a toe touch, they'll extend their arms as if they're separating the bat from their body, and it creates elasticity, which creates energy, which you can transfer into the ball, into the bat and the ball. Next thing we look for is loss of base. So when you make your toe touch, where's this knee? You want this heel down. Actually, I'll take it back one frame slightly. So if we call this toe touch and back heel down, and we don't want that knee pointing straight, you're cutting it close. When you go to heel plant, and the reason I say that, when you go to heel plant, look at where your knee is pointing. And here it's kind of pointing in, kind of pointing at us, slightly turned. All right, so, and then here, you're good. All right, since your right leg is slightly turned out, I'm going to say you have a loss of base on this one. And yes, I'm being picky, and it may, in the grand scheme of things, may not mean a lot, but this allows us to, you know, if we address other areas and then we notice a change in your technique and sequencing, then we can say, oh, that really was a loss of base, and it was because, you know, you had the dead hands. And once you fix that, it fixed it. So I'm going to say yes. You can argue with me and say no, and I won't fight back. But we'll see if that changes in the future when we address other areas. Other thing we look for is also hanging back. And so draw the line here. I did this one just to make sure I'm getting my 90 degrees. And to make sure you have a good weight shift, we don't want any part of that foot crossing the yellow line. And so you're doing excellent here. And so I know I said crossing the yellow line, but basically your heel, we don't want it on the line there. So no evidence of hanging back. Other thing I look for is what we call a gate swing. Make sure that elbow is passing through the hip and no issues there. Sometimes that elbow can get stuck on the hip, but for you, no problems there. Again, at the toe touch position, what we're looking for is that elbow. Make sure it's not flailing out. We take you a few frames here. We want to make sure that elbow is nice and tight, lined with your hands there. So good there. Other piece we want to make sure you're not doing is dumping the barrel. So we take it to the toe touch position. You want those hands behind the bat. Going to start you off at the heel plant position. Draw a line straight up and down that front hip, 90 degrees. We want you rotating around that line. And so I drew the line a little bit there. And once you're rotating around that line, so you're doing good there. And again, no signs of a push on the hands. So loss of posture, dead hands, and loss of base is what I saw. And I think some of that with the dead hands, you do have some tight shoulders on your test. And so some of the corrective exercises will assist with that. Loss of posture may be related to some of your physical findings because we did find some tightness within your hips and some challenges with pelvic rotation, but all those we can address. I'm going to go to the rear view. Zoom, zoom, zoom a bit. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to take you positive move all the way down to contact. So positive move. All right, so this one, we'll start you on, so negative, start you on that positive move. So the technique we do is we draw a line here to here, and we don't want you to create much space in between that line while you're hitting. So with your foot, you just step in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is move this line, and we're going to say here. Kind of here, we're at 90 degrees. All right, so we don't want you to get too much space from this standpoint. And you see how those hips tuck in right there? They just tuck in, and what happens is you decrease the space between the ball and your body, and so it allows less space for your hands to move. So if you were to get jammed, like throw an inside pitch, you may have trouble moving your, or adjusting to move your hands because you've decreased the space between your body and the ball. Other thing we look for is we call casting the hands. We want that lead hand inside the lead elbow, so we go to toe touch. Want that lead hand inside the lead elbow all the way to heel plant. And so you're doing good. So no evidence of casting. So that loss of space, you want to maintain that space in order for you to be able to adjust to any movement on the pitches or an inside pitch. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch you over to the 3D analysis. And so your X factor, meaning the separation between your shoulders and your pelvis, was pretty good. I got you at about 52. So this little change right here shows pretty good separation between the shoulders and the hips. And that means you're coiling and able to generate power. Where you're losing your power is your sequencing. All right. And so I'm going to zoom up this top one here. So as you see, this little part right here is where the main part is. And the red is your lead arm and the bat. The green is your trunk / shoulder. And the orange is your pelvis. And so the proper sequencing we want to see, meaning where they peak, is we actually want the orange to peak first, not necessarily as high. So your velocities are good. And what that means is the peak, the height of the peaks are good. They're just out of sequence. It just means that your arms are accelerating past your trunk and accelerating past your hips, and that should be reversed. We should see firing from your hips first, then your thorax, shoulder, and then your arm. And so if we can address these issues, you're going to have a lot of increase in power because you have a great X factor, means separation of your upper body and the lower body. They're just firing in the wrong sequence, or they're peaking at the wrong time. So we're going to really work on firing those hips first, followed by your trunk, shoulder, and then your arms to follow. And I think if we can do that, you're going to see significant power in the box. You probably already have good power, but your potential is pretty good. And so we'll help you work on those things, and appreciate you allowing me to work with you. And if you have any questions, we'll be in contact. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.